I met Sean McGinnis, my partner at the Manager Vault, 11 years ago when he was my manager. And the leadership advice and guidance that he gave me then is still frameworks and advice that I draw on today and I share with my team members. And so over the years, Sean and I have kept in touch. We talk all the time and we swap our management war stories and advice, and we use each other as sounding boards. And we thought, man, wouldn't it be cool if we actually opened up our club to include more people? So that's what the Management Vault is. And today, I have served in a few VP and C-level roles, and today I'm a chief marketing officer, and I love it and passionate about investing in leaders.
One of the things that I love about our relationship is it takes so much effort for most people to stay in touch, and for you and I, that's never been true. Like we just touch base, about twice a quarter on the regular, sometimes monthly, a little more frequently, and there's always something to talk about. Like that's the part that I love most about when you and I dig into the weeds and get specific on stuff. So. Yeah, I'm Sean McGinnis. As Ashley said, I've been an executive and a leader. Been managing people for almost 25 years now. Been in business for much longer than that, but had the pleasure of reporting to some really great managers along the way, which is where I learned a lot of the stuff that I've learned along the way. And so, one of the things that I have always taken seriously as a manager is making sure that I pass along that knowledge and try to ready my team for the next step in their career, whatever that may be. Sometimes it's a next individual contributor role, but oftentimes it's stepping up as a manager or director or VP or beyond. So I'm currently COO of a direct response e-commerce business. And when I sent Ashley a note like, hey, I want to start a business together, you were all over it. You're like, yeah, I'm serious. And I didn't think you were at first, but I was so glad you said yes. And I think this is the perfect vehicle for us to kind of share all the stuff we've learned over the years and to kind of, to your point, kind of, open the door to the club and bring some more people aboard.
So fun. I'm loving it so far.
Yeah, we've only been this is the second week, right? So we've been working behind the scenes for many weeks to kind of create content. We probably have a quarter's worth of content. We're publishing twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but we brainstormed a lot of stuff. And just excited to kind of keep sharing and building the community and growing from here.
Well, and it's so natural for us too, I will say, because the content almost it feels like it writes itself because we're already talking about this stuff. You and I
Yeah.
are already talking about this stuff, and we're talking to leaders who report to us about this stuff. And so
Yep.
it was just about making the commitment to write it down and share it with more people.
Well, even before we pressed record, we were talking about some very specific things that are like, there's 3 or 4 ideas that we could talk about on a podcast, just in the stuff that you dealt with last week. I mean, it's a never-ending experience, so it's great. Clarity is kindness has been top of mind because it's something that you coined, and it really is an important part of. Why don't you just share a little bit more about how you developed that? And I've got something I think plugs into that too that hasn't even been published yet, but I drafted it, I think this week or last week.
I could talk about clarity is kindness for a long time, so we'll shorten it. We'll give the little short version. Um, to me, clarity is kindness was really born out of the fact that as managers, we really care about our people. Most people become leaders and become managers because they like people, they're relationship-based people, and they have a high EQ, right? A high emotional intelligence. And and then these managers are put into situations where they're managing people all of a sudden. And it can be difficult to navigate, oh, these people who I saw as friends or peers now are reporting to me. And in that environment, managers often try to be what they would say is nice.
Right.
I'm trying to be nice to my team.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
trying
the
to be
instinct.
trying to be kind to my team. And we also have the instinct that's very human to want to be liked by our
Yeah.
team. And the truth is that often in trying to be nice, we're not clear. And so at the worst end of the spectrum, what I've personally done, I'm ashamed to say, and what I've seen other leaders unfortunately do is we pull our punches with the feedback and we pull our punches with the clarity again and again and again because we're scared of hurting the relationship or hurting somebody's feelings. And that ends up actually being the most unkind thing to do because then we're in a situation where the person's underperforming and we're kind of pretending we're giving feedback, but it's not clear.
Right.
And so we're hurting that person's success. And the worst case scenario is we're put in a position where we have to let somebody go, and they're not even clear that they've been underperforming.
Right.
I mean, it's a
Yeah, it's the
nightmare.
worst. When that clarity isn't provided across the whole organization, now it's really messy, right? Like you just there is this theory of like, well, we're just going to hire people that know what to do. Well, you still have to give them direction. You just have to, or the organization is kind of running around doing its own thing and not aligned. And that alignment is what really moves the organization forward. For years and years and years, that one of the reasons new managers especially struggle with this idea of management is one of the things managers are have to do out of the gate is figure out where the bar is. Your job as a people manager is to set high expectations and then hold people accountable for those expectations. And it's literally the defining of the expectation that is the hard part because we're so not used to that in our daily lives. We don't do it well with our partners sometimes. We don't do it with our kids. We don't do it with our relations and our, sisters and brothers and extended family members. And so and that's something you do exceptionally well. I've given you a lot of praise in the past when talking about that. But like, it's such an important idea that you have to know where your bar and where the threshold lives. Because otherwise, how do you know when to give feedback at all? And so it part of it is discerning and deciding where that bar lives, and then the second step is you've got to clearly communicate it, right? And that goes into like you have to communicate it many, many times, and that's where the clarity comes. It can't just be once. It can't be in a throwaway comment. It can't be buried in an email somewhere. You have to mention these things time and time and time again, whether they're in one-on-ones, whether they're in teams and you're getting the team fully aligned, you have to revisit these concepts on an almost regular basis or people won't get it. It's easy to be distracted, right?
Yeah, I love that. And there's two things that I often share with leaders related to that. And one is that at the point that you're sick of repeating something, your team is probably just hearing it and synthesizing it.
Yeah,
I like to say that. And then two, um, we all synthesize information differently. We're all human beings. Our communication is flawed. Nobody's perfect. We're all doing
sure.
our best. And so when you communicate something in different modes, to your point, you write it down, you say it out loud, and maybe you put it in a presentation and ground it in examples. That's when it starts to actually resonate with the team. And I think something that you taught me, Sean, and something that's helped me a lot in my career in leadership is to always talk about the impact. Like that's a piece that is missing from a lot of feedback. And that's something that you taught me very
Yeah.
well is you
Yeah.
can't just give feedback without the impact because the person needs to understand why it's important.
Yeah, and the notion of repeating yourself. I mean, think about marketing. The whole entire discipline of marketing exists to repeat the message multiple times until we absorb it almost subconsciously as a target audience, right? And so the same thing happens inside the business world, inside your team, inside people that you're having one-on-one conversations with. They have to hear it multiple times and I mean, I remember we usually kick off quarterly meetings revisiting all of our corporate values, just to remind people that they exist. Because if you're using your values wisely, like those things have to be repeated, or people forget, right? And so it doesn't just relate to feedback or it's setting the bar or all those things. It's picking the things that are the most important and make sure you're communicating them consistently to keep the organization aligned, right? It's really what it all comes back to is a well-aligned organization is someone at the front of the boat pointing the way, someone else in the back steering, and everyone else rowing in the same direction, all at the same time. And that can't happen without clear communication.
Yeah, that's spot on. In fact, this is timely because just last week I introduced a new strategic framework for my team. And that's a big thing to introduce. You are introducing a new way of thinking and operating to a group of people and then trying to ground it in the work and the day-to-day and priorities.
Right.
And so I have said it in every meeting I have been in, including team meetings. I did a presentation on it. We grounded it in real examples, and I'm bringing it up at every opportunity I can, and bringing it up at every level with every person I interact with.
Right.
I'm,
Sure. Yeah.
I'm sure they're already starting to get sick of it, but I'm thinking, okay, we're starting to
They're
implement it.
finally starting to understand. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it does become, you have to just keep, it's repetition. It's a game of repetition. And the best leaders are continually repeating the same things over and over and over again. And then eventually, especially when you make a change, right? So imagine you've got full alignment and now you want to go in a slightly different direction. Well, that message has to change, right? And so now you've got to do it all over again to make sure that everyone's fully aligned, or you're only going to get half the team over there and the other ones are going to be on the other side of the boat, right?
That's right. It's an endless cycle. It never ends, but a fun cycle. Like this kind of work.
Yeah,
Fun.
for sure.
Nice.
Well, I love it. It was great to see you.
It
And we're going to do this once a week or so, right? That's the plan. This is our first of many of these, but we're going to kind of supplement and augment either maybe new concepts or revisiting stuff that we're already publishing in the newsletter. We'd love to take people's questions. And if there's anything in particular that you want to, want us to talk about or get feedback on, if maybe you're struggling with something at work, drop us a note or drop us an email. Subscribe to the newsletter at themanagervault.com, and we would love to feature one of your questions on an upcoming podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. We're so excited to have you. Thanks for joining the Manager Vault, and we're excited for what's to come.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
See ya.